So excited today to talk about some cybersecurity trends for 2025. We have Helen Yu, the CEO of Tigon Advisory Group, with us. Helen, welcome, and appreciate you taking the time today. Before we dive in, could you maybe take us a little bit through your story and how you began in your career in IT and cybersecurity?
Sure, Sergey. Very nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So I actually began my career as an accountant and financial analyst. My transition to tech was somewhat serendipitous, right? I became a Hyperion consultant after leading an implementation as a client. And over the years, I personally designed hundreds of financial planning applications working with CFOs. And then later on, we joined Hyperion, was acquired by Oracle. So I managed Oracle BI consulting practice there, and then became also one of the probably most senior solution architect at Oracle. And that's where I gained more valuable insights with enterprise solution sales under Keith Block at the time. And then this experience allowed me to further refine my growth acceleration skills in marketing and SaaS at Adobe and Marketo. So post Marketo exit in 2017, I founded my own company with the goal of providing fractional CXO service. So my journey then took a very pivotal turn in 2019 when I delivered a keynote speech called Getting Cyber Fit at the International Risk Management Conference in Zurich, Switzerland. That actually really ignited my passion for cybersecurity because you got all the Fortune companies people there from risk management team. To deepen my expertise, I enrolled in MIT's cybersecurity program. So recognizing the urgent need for effective solutions in this digital landscape. So that really led to partnership for managed security services and my involvement as vice chair and technology board director for the Global Cybersecurity Association later on.
In 2025, I know security changes, people are playing way ahead, but what should organizations really look for or be proactive in next year?
That's a great question, but let's start looking at the top 8 cyber attack we're seeing in 2024 first, right? Number 1 is phishing attack. Number 2 is ransomware. Number 3 is denial of service. And number 4 is man in the middle. Number 5 is SQL injection. Number 6 is cross-site scripting. And number 7 is zero-day exploits. And then number 8 is DNS spoofing. So looking ahead to 2025, I personally anticipate an increase in AI-driven threats. Here are a few to watch out for. Number 1 is AI-powered phishing. Phishing will never go away, as we know, right? Imagine more personalized phishing emails created by AI and pulling information from social media to make them super convincing to the users, right? Secondly is the deepfake technology. We have already seen the cases of voice cloning fraud, and then criminals could create these realistic audio, video impersonations, right, to really lead to unauthorized access to your information. So this is my actually personal advice to people. If you have loved ones, come up with a personal secret password, right? If someone calls you faking as your beloved ones, ask them that secret password and don't believe that's the person. If you are in the corporation, you never make a payment based on one single phone call. There needs to be separate, I would say, duty of segregation, right? Number 3 is sophisticated, more malware. Think about AI could help develop malware that helps or adapts to avoid detection, make it much harder to catch. Number 4 is AI-driven DDoS attacks, right? Attackers could use AI coordinate massive DDoS attacks by finding vulnerabilities or overwhelming systems. Number 5 is automated threat hunting, where cyber criminals could use AI to quickly identify weakness faster than human teams can respond. Lastly is credential stuffing. Think about AI, much easier for attackers to test stolen credentials across multiple sites, increase their chance of success, right? So in terms of your questions on how do you prevent this and proactive steps for business to take, I think there are a few. The first is to understand your threat landscape. And I would say you got to have an inventory list of what needs to be protected, right? Who is responsible for what? And then where you have the most vulnerabilities within your organization. And secondly is to organize your cyber management priorities. You gotta have, if you don't have a framework, this is being one of them, you gotta adopt a framework. Understand, along the stage to identify risk, protect your data information, detect, and then respond or recover along that stage. What are the strategies you have? And then number three, you must measure risk exposure. When I say measure, what is your approach to cyber risk measurement, right? Have you identified the crown jewels, or what are the things we're using to manage the cyber risk? And then lastly is improving the defense with technology, defense in depth. But I think overall you got to build a security first culture. It's making sure everyone within the organization is cyber aware, not just the IT team. Hey, you got a CISO or IT team. That's not enough, right? And then you train employees, not only train the new hires, but also regularly training employees, third-party suppliers, and your consultants, and making sure your solution or embed that in compliance into your solution. The last thing I'm going to say that you got to have a incident response plan, right? Even though you're not being attacked, it's not about if, it's about when you might be attacked. You better have that. So ensure everybody knows in the event of situation. Let's say if I, as an employee, I lost my device, company issued the device, what you should be doing, you should report that immediately, right? Making sure that we isolate the situation and then de-risk. Lastly is a partner. We can't do this alone. You may want to outsource some of the efforts, or find other companies who have come up with best practice, and then share those best practices with each other and collaborate with others in the ecosystem.
I love that you said, a culture. So it's security is a mindset. I'm a father of three, so even my family has a password for the kids. And, my team at Clutch, we have, multi-layer confirmation, incident report. And, one thing that a lot of people might be listening to this and say, wow, well, that's so many different things that can happen. Yeah. Now, there's a reason you mentioned at the end, outsource, is because outsource expertise can help you with that, because not everyone internally can understand, every threat on every level. So after a organization audits, what are some of the things that you might consider when you outsource, especially with, how smooth and trustworthy it has to be with an organization?
Yeah, I love that question, Sergey. How do you ensure every single door and windows are closed, right? That's being said, that's where, so critical to create that awareness. If you tell me, Helen, you've got 10 doors and windows, you got to watch them every single day, I'm pretty sure I'll be doing that. Every other employee will be doing that as well, right? So that's being said, sometimes we don't do that. So really important to consider some outsourcing, right? Maybe you need third-party company to come in to help you out to build that awareness, and then help your employees to understand where you have the vulnerabilities, right? So I would, a few things to consider. Number one is internal expertise. If you think about it, if your team lacks of specific knowledge or resources, you may want to bring in some outside experts, right? When it comes to cyber, it's quite complex. There are 17 main categories of security. We're talking about network, there's data, identity and access management, there's governance, risk and compliance, there's endpoint, there's security operations, IoT, applications, API, you name them, right? It's I don't think it's possible for you to hire 17 people on the team. It's just not cost beneficial. If you think about it, that's being said, you have to figure out where you have the most vulnerabilities, and based on where you're at, and then hire the people you need the most, and then supplement that with third party to really complement the existing team. Number two is more about growth, right? If you think about you want to grow and then as business scale, your cyber risk exposure often increases, right? Outsourcing could allow you to focus on growth while ensuring that have robust security measures in place. So you figure out where you focus. And then sometimes if you're a global company, you may need 24/7 coverage. Maybe your network, based on where your network is at, or your input service where you have the most customers, you may want to outsource to where you don't have so many customers, but they do need pocket services, 24/7 coverage, right? Sometimes the compliance requirement, you may not be able to hire a legal counsel full-time, but you may need someone to cover that, help you understand the compliance and regulations in different parts of the world to help you ensure that you pass the audit, right? Ensure that you embed that into your solution. And then I would say, focus on core business is important, right? If cybersecurity taking too much focus away from your primary business goals, outsourcing allows you to really concentrate on what you do best when leaving the security to the experts. So those are the kind of few considerations when considering outsource.
So you said one thing that really stuck with me, building to scale. So obviously, outsource is very good if they can get you to somewhere where you're going to be. Are there any considerations on the technical alignment between an outsource firm and a company that maybe you have some advice on?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, oftentimes, when I work with customers, obviously they would bring us in as a third party. The first thing we do, you got an alignment of the goals, right? Because oftentimes what IT team thinks that's critical may not be fully aligned with business. It's not intentionally misalignment. It's just the fact that they all have their own priorities, right? The business team may not appreciate or understand how complex things could be. There could be shadow ITs, right, out of the business side, and then IT is never aware. So ensure that whatever the third party understand your business objective, not only from IT side but also from business side. And then if your company is focused on expanding e-commerce, the provider should tailor their service to protect online transactions and customer data, for example. Right. Number two is compatibility with your existing footprint, because you need to assess how the solution, the third-party solution, will integrate with your current IT infrastructure, right? For example, if you're using specific software like CRM or ERP system, and you better have a vendor who understands that, can integrate that with your existing infrastructure. If you're all using Jira to track system, that's fine. But if you're using Jira, they're using something else, and then you may want to talk about that upfront, right? Thirdly is well-define the roles and responsibilities. Oftentimes, a company could have the misconception, I hired a consultant or hired a third party, they're going to take care of everything, right? I think clearly outline the responsibility of both your internal team and what they're going to do versus outsourcing partner. That's so important. For example, you may want to specify your internal team, like maybe they handle day-to-day IT operations, while the outsourced team focus on threat detection or incident response, right? And then clear communication channel is very important. Sometimes you can use Slack or whatever that is, or regular video meetings can help getting aligned and getting the critical information communicated with each other. Lastly is the data security and compliance. It's very, very important to think through that, right? If you have the provider, making sure that they follow the industry standard, you should ask them if they're compliant, they follow the compliance of certain standard, right? And think about scalability. When you hire them to do certain things, can they still handle that 8 months down the road, right? Do they have the capability, or they can only do what you need them to do right now? But I think that incident response plan is so critical, and then ongoing training and support. And don't just bring them on board to do what they want to do. You got to train them and making sure they follow your internal standard as well.
Is there one maybe major misconception that people need to overcome just to stay aligned with what's could help them or save them or protect their security?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned, 85% of cyber attack attributed to human error behavior. This one major misconception is the idea that cybersecurity solely be responsibility of IT department. Right, this myth can be really dangerous if you think about it, because I oftentimes work with companies. Oh, we already have a CISO, we just hire a cyber expert. That doesn't really solve the problem, right? You think about it, because you have to make sure cyber security is a shared responsibility that requires involvement from everyone in the organization. Actually, I came across with a CompTIA report recently. It says 40% of the people say that technical staff lead security conversations, but only 36% indicate CEO's involvement, and just 25% involve business staff, right? Think about this, how this lack of engagement can result in incomplete risk assessment and weak security measures. That's why we got incident every single day, right? And then that's just mind-blowing. Think about it. So I would say my suggestion to the company, there are a few things you got to do. I mentioned earlier, you got to understand the threat landscape, right? Ensure that that's everyone's responsibility, not just IT, but you got to come up with an inventory list of what needs to be protected, who is responsible for what, and where you have the most vulnerabilities. And then that's step one. Step two is to organize your cyber management priorities, organizing that. And then through I would say framework, I use NIST a lot. That's why I talk about that, right? Identify all the risk and then understand, what data needs to be, information needs to be protected, and then detection. How do you detect, and how do you respond? How do you recover, right? Go through those steps. And then you got to have something can help you measure the risk exposure. So we haven't trained people enough, right? Just a basic phishing attack. People don't know. Don't click the link when you look at the email. If someone asks you to, and you click this right away, ASAP, all those are alert, right? You should never click the link until you check who it's coming from. And then the third-party suppliers and consultants and vendors, all those people needs to be part of your training program as well. And then lastly is you got to understand the implication, ethics, and compliance and regulation in cybersecurity. If you are a global company, each country has its own regulations and compliance requirements, making sure that you don't just naively think that you can apply one thing policy that would apply to everybody. Ideally, you want to probably consult with your legal counsel to ensure that the policy works in US, also works in different parts of the world. If not, come up with someone that's more aligned with what's working in that particular region. And then sometimes you're in a highly sensitive region, you need to be more aware, right? When you have employees travel to those highly sensitive regions, you need to have different set of standards and then ensure that they don't bring any sensitive information with them or not even access company information while they're there, right?
If you could keep one app on your phone, what would it be?
I would say the contacts app, where I can keep friends and family members' contact information.
What's your go-to podcast? If maybe someone wanted to learn a little bit more, are there any ones that you listen to that feel could be very beneficial?
Yeah, I actually recently joined National Association of Corporate Director and NACD, right? Became board advisor for NACD Pacific Southwest chapter. So I've been listening to Board Vision, and they talk about cybersecurity quite a bit, believe it or not. I find it very invaluable. I like to switch things up. I don't usually just go to one, but I used to listen to Wall Street Journal's The Future of Everything. Anything tech and innovation, cyber AI are top of my list. I switch them up from time to time.
If you were not in cybersecurity, and I might put a rule in that you can't go back to finance, what career would you be in?
If I weren't in tech or cyber, I'd be writing novels, creating the sci-fi stories, right? I'm fascinated, always fascinated by these concept of cyborgs. and how technology intersects with humanity. And so exploring these themes in fiction would be a thrilling journey for me. Crafting narratives that really blend the imagination with futuristic possibilities sounds like an incredible adventure for me. I love writing. I almost write every single day.
What's one word that describes the future of cybersecurity?
I would say adaptive because it captures the need for cybersecurity to continuously evolve in response to new threats and technologies. The ability to adjust strategies and defenses is so critical for staying resilient in an ever-changing landscape. And then people like us, cyber professionals need to adapt to the new reality as well.
Thank you for your time. That was an amazing discussion. And a lot of people are actually going to benefit quite a bit from some of the topics. So thanks again, Helen.
Well, I really enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for having me.